All right, let me Come on, YouTube, show me the stream. There we go.
Okay, and I'll watch it from the back end.
All right, and I will tweet. And this first part is going to be very fascinating for everybody watching this on record.
Okay.
Oh, boy. Bloody hot. I mean, it's not anywhere as bad as it was last week, but geez.
Yeah, it's been pretty miserable in Oklahoma. We've got the heat and the humidity going pretty much full force.
We just have blast furnace. I mean, it hit like 107 a couple days last week.
Yeesh.
Yeah. And now it's cooled down a little, so everybody's kind of off their guard because hey, it's a lot cooler than it was last week. Yeah, but I still got completely sunburned at Pride yesterday, so the backs of my calves were insufficiently sunscreened.
Yeah, there's typically not a lot of sufficient sunscreening of that part of the body in most circumstances. Mm-hmm. It's real easy to forget that one.
But good times. Did we just want to ramble about some Transformers real quick?
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be.
You have your graphical aids nearby?
Yeah, I'm about to load those up. You get started while I get that loaded up for everybody. This is certainly a productive use of our time.
Absolutely. Well, Hasbro has revealed what the next round of generation style Transformers are, and it's intensely 1984, 1985?
Yeah,
incredibly 1984, 1985 again?
In a particularly baffling way is the whole thing. Yeah, here we go. Get us a nice first visual aid there. Yeah, the current series is Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy, which is presumptive, Siege, or as it appears to be here, STEGE.
No, with the E at the end, it's STEGE.
STEGE, yeah.
Okay, Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy STEGE.
STEGE. Yeah, it's not a pleasant word.
No.
But the basic concept, as they pitched us, this whole thing, the basic concept that they gave initially was that this was supposed to be their War for Cybertron thing. They're before they come to Earth, pre-Earth mode type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And hold on just a moment. For some reason, it didn't put that word with the rest of them. Okay, here we go. And this is what that means according to the current Hasbro team. This is an alien vehicle unlike anything we've ever seen on Earth. And you can tell because the cab has eyebrows.
Do you not have enough Optimus Primes that look just like that in robot mode? This is what, the fourth in the last year or so?
Yeah, it's we get a whole lot of these is the problem. We get a whole lot of pretty much exactly what we're looking at right here. And let me see if I can't find the most egregious example. For example, before this thing is even on shelves, before this is like the only thing on shelves, when this new one, oh, sorry. I hate how Windows does things, because if I save something off the internet and I save and I sort by date, it doesn't give me the date of the saving. It gives me the date the person on the internet or who originally made the file created it.
That's insane. I've never seen that happen before.
It's something that they did in Windows 7. Let me see. So if hang on, I've got another way I can find this.
But yeah, meanwhile, the other the other Transformers toy lines, which feature many Optimus Primes, all look like that.
Okay.
Well, okay, they don't have the eyebrows in the truck mode, but
All right, I can do a little bit of a demonstration here.
yeah, here's last year's.
Yeah, this is the Optimus Prime just before the one that you just looked at. That is a pretty much perfect G1 Optimus Prime, some extra arm kibble, but that's basically Masterpiece Prime with full trailer, and the cab turns into his pre-Earth mode, Orion Pax. So not only is the new one less, not terribly science fiction-y looking, it's also a worse pre-Earth Optimus Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in addition to that, before we came up on that, we had other problems, such as, hang on, I'll just pull everything up here. I achieved a lot by copying and pasting, and that's now being revealed to be a mistake. So, for example, and simultaneously to this thing coming out, we also have sorry. Live, everybody. Then we have this. These are both from Wave 1 of Transformers Cyberverse. Oh, look, it's another two square-cabbed Optimus Primes that are kind of futuristic-y.
And have the grill tummy, and the windshield chest, and the squared-off shoulders, and the
pipes
smokestacks on.
Yeah, and the pipes, and the smokestacks, and the whole 9 yards. And it's like
the pipes, they're calling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Donnie boy, the choking hazards. Anyhow, and then worse even than Prime is their supposedly Cybertronian mode for for Sideswipe, which is
who's kind of the poster child for is only known because he was first. I swear the most significant thing any Generation 1 Sideswipe has done in all of Transformers history was die in the IDW comics. He had a really good, after being like basically comatose for a dozen issues, he finally just up and dies, and it was a really good issue about that. Otherwise, the best you've got is, what you've illustrated here, his Generation 2 appearance.
Yeah, or alternatively, Sideswipe. I know you've got a jetpack. Give it to me.
Yeah.
Which is something I brought up in one of my posts, that if they wanted to do a pre-Earth Sideswipe, what do they know about Sideswipe? They know that he has a jetpack. Wouldn't it make sense to incorporate that into his pre-Earth mode? Maybe make it big and prominent and kind of a major feature? I mean, also, considering we know what... there's that aspect. Why wouldn't you make that a big feature? We'd also...
That just looks like an Earth concept car.
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a Cybertronian mode as we've known it for 30 years.
Yeah,
Cybertronian modes tend to run towards the fantastical and the weird.
Yeah, and as an example, we'll throw up the classic Tetrajets. Now, one thing I noticed looking at the Tetrajet design, after having not paid attention to it for a long time, is it's actually a lot more interesting than the third-party developers would lead you to believe. Like, the third-party Tetrajets never really wound up looking much like this Tetrajet design, at least not to me. They lack the cleanness. I like how high up the cockpits are, like they're more eyes than cockpits.
Yeah.
I like the weird sort of triangular dart design that they have, that's what a G1 pre-Earth mode looked like. And if you want to see an alternative for somebody who on Earth became a car, here's the other big example, which is Bumblebee. Now, what I fear that we're going to get is we're going to get that Bumblebee, and we're going to get a Tetrajet Starscream, and everybody else is going to basically be what we've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know what, I have not been the hugest fan of More Than Meets the Eye Cybertronian modes, but to be honest, if they are at least trying to match this in terms of style and design, at least it would be a creative exercise.
I mean, they look like a vehicle that does not belong on Earth.
Right. They look like a vehicle that is maybe just what you'd turn into if you could turn into a vehicle and having a person in you was not a concern. You know?
Yeah, but I mean, that's Sideswipe's mode isn't even Cybertronian when compared to, say, I mean, Hot Rod. The original Hot Rod was more foreign and weird looking. But I mean, then you've got Cup and Blur. Any of the first round of Autobot Target Masters, they're strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you had one guy who was vaguely like a Baja Buggy, but he's still got all these just stuff hanging off him.
Yeah.
What's can you find a picture of Point Blank? He's what I was considered a really good Cybertronian car.
Yeah, give me just a second.
No problem. The big problem is that you're getting all this intensely very samey 1984 stuff in this one line, when every other Transformers line is giving you a lot of the same.
Oh yeah, I do have a visual reference for that. Hold on just a moment.
Yeah.
That's Point Blank. He's a little squished in this picture, but yeah. But yeah, that's a Cybertronian vehicle. It's
got the weird pontoon kind of up front, the big jet intakes, the wings.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like he's actually supposed to have a door.
Right. Supposed to open up like a jet cockpit, things like that. It definitely reads as that sort of deal. Now, on that same process, now Hasbro has a whole bunch of Transformers lines running simultaneously at any given time for the two people that listen to us that don't know this. There is what we're talking about right now with Siege is the collector's aimed thing. The collector's aimed thing has been around since classics. It's always a retro thing. It's always playing to the older audience. It's always very fan wanky, and that's okay. The problem is that normally, in addition to that, we also have a kids line, then we have rescue bots, and then we have a couple of other lines. Like we have Masterpiece.
Just some side stuff, yeah.
Masterpiece. And then we have this Cyber Battalion thing, which is their new Evergreen line. And to give
the stuff that largely goes in dollar stores and smaller outlets, and it's a generic line. Basically.
It's supposed to be the eternal version of Transformers, and the version that's just sort of generically G1 and represents the iconic characters that get used over and over again. And look at what's out right now in that same line. It's another Earth mode Sideswipe. Oh, look! And there's another Shockwave. We got another Shockwave there. It's not
because we don't need another Shock, because we've got Shockwave and Cyberverse.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, is right now, Cyberverse is all G1-y. Like, all super first-year G1-y stuff.
Everything they've revealed for Cyberverse, toy-wise, it's another Optimus, Megatron, Starscream, Bumblebee, Grimlock, Shockwave.
I can do you one better. I actually have written down the numbers. In Wave 1 of this series, you get 2 Optimus Primes, 4 Bumblebees, 2 Grimlocks, 2 Megatrons, 3 Starscreams, a Blur, a Soundwave, and a Shockwave.
But here's the fun thing about that Blur. Yeah. That Blur is just the is from the Robots in Disguise. Is from the last Robots in Disguise line.
Oh,
that's not even a new mold.
It's just a redeco.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's a one-step changer.
Oh, Jesus.
The first wave of Cyberverse one-step changers are just Robots in Disguise one-step chambers, not even redecoed.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
But the problem that runs into is that right now that means that simultaneously you are going to have an extremely G1-y Starscream in Siege, because we have no reason to expect anything else right now. And then you'll have at least 3 extremely G1 Starscreams in Cyberverse in the first wave. Who knows what happens after that shipment? And then you also have, there's going to be G1 style Starscreams in Cyber Battalion, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you've got Masterpiece, which is going to have all that. And that's on top of all of the G1 Starscreams that we got out of Combiner Wars and Power of the Primes.
The dozen redecos of the Classic mold.
The dozen redecos of the Classics mold. The Titans Return. Every other version of Starscream that's been repainted into G1 Starscream. And it goes on and on and on. It's the same stuff over and over. And here they don't even seem to be going for, like, their whole thing is like, we're going to do Cybertronian modes, but they don't even seem brave enough to do, like, even the War for Cybertron Cybertronian modes.
Which I didn't much care for myself, but, you know. Well, it's still more interesting than what we've got.
Well, yeah, at least those still look like they came from space.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, we're using Sideswipe as our sort of example character here because we got the most points of reference on him. This is what Sideswipe looked like pre-Earth I think this is the only canonical pre-Earth version of him I've ever seen.
Probably.
Yeah. Now, admittingly, not terribly exciting, but it was a relatively low poly video game.
Mm-hmm.
And but at least it's a spacey car. It looks like it's from the future. It's even got kind of some of that pontooniness that you get from that you pointed out on Point Blank in the front there.
Yeah.
The wheel wells coming out, the sort of spikes.
And I must say, the glowy lines help. The glowy lines and panels are a big help.
Mm-hmm.
It is a nice look that I think I kind of like it in Transformers. I liked it in Robots in Disguise. I liked how it looked in Prime. Mm-hmm. I kind of wish it will. I hope it stays. I can't tell if it's going to stay in Cyberverse. There's stuff that looks like it could be the glowy lines, but with stock art, there's
always impossible to tell. But the whole thing that you wind up having is like, I understand what they're going for with Sideswipe. Sideswipe G1 Sideswipe has not had a really accurate release since Classics version 1.
Even then, that was pretty janky because he had to be Sunstreaker as well.
Right. So I can see them using him, doing a really earthy G1-y version of him to get a version of him out. In that case, they should not have led with him as the promo picture if he's not representative. But the other thing is that there's just so much. What new is being introduced so far from Siege? The gimmick is apparently assemblable weapons, which...
Well, vaguely assemblable. I see like 1 or 2 connection points on any given weapon.
Yeah, I think the big thing is going to be those Gunpla-esque energy flashes that they have on the barrels.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be their big deal. I think
only the target, those smallest kits come with those, though.
I have no idea then, because it's basically like they're doing target masters, but you have to buy them separately. And the small scale appears to be MicroMaster squads, which, again, if you were going to do MicroMaster squads, then why aren't everybody else, MacroMasters? Or Titans, or whatever you want to call them. Why are they not?
This would be a good time. You've got to set up there that you could take another stab at the Armada play point, only do it better.
Right.
Give yourself a bunch of little Cybertronian vehicle MicroMasters that also happen to have suitable armor / weapon, configurations.
Or even if
They don't need to be complicated, and then just have them attach via those weapon points. But
or even
no,
if you
apparently
just
not.
even if you make it so that the one thing that you engineer around is just the fact that these little guys can all sit in the same size cockpits, that alone would be enough. Do the Titan's Return cockpit gimmicks, just do it with Micromasters. But
frankly, at a $10 price point for a theoretically 4-pack of Micromasters, I don't know how they're going to improve on the old ones in any significant manner.
Right. Well,
and considering you can buy most of the Micromaster teams on eBay right now, the originals for about $10.
Mm-hmm. Well, like one thing that I know that they're not going to do with the Micromasters, which they really ought to, is they're not going to go with that old pin and screw construction. They're going to have ball joints, and I don't like that on minicons. I don't like it.
No.
They wear out too quick. They're pathetic. They hold together pathetically. Small transformers should be built with minimal articulation and maximum solidness.
Yeah, because at that size, a compressed mode does not hold together as well when you've got ball joints.
Right. Now, if they wanted to do something interesting with this, there's plenty of places they could go with it. I was thinking of myself, like, how would you do a pre-Earth sideswipe? One, start adapting in some features from some of the other incarnations of the character.
Make him look more like a hover car is what I'd do. I'd hide the wheels. I would give where the wheels are on the current one. Mm-hmm. Make it look like a big vent, but then just hide the wheel underneath.
Right.
So that way it looks like a zoomy floaty car.
Yeah, I would try and make it look like what I would imagine Sideswipe would have looked like if he'd had a pre-Earth mode in More Than Meets the Eye. And then I would have done some things to deck him out and give him some interesting features to make him,
Well, in that case, we would definitely make him a hover car, because I don't think anybody had...
Right, nobody had that. But you could do maybe slightly outward, cover the wheels up with slightly outward pointing hover vents or
that's what they did for Robots in Disguise Sideswipe.
Yeah,
his Cybertronian mode.
Mm-hmm. And then I figure what you do is you give him you give him a sword. Because not only has Robots in Disguise Sideswipe had a sword, but your other major appearances of Sideswipe, such as in Transformers Devastation,
the movie Sideswipe.
Right, they've made him a swordsman, so make him a swordsman. That of course spun me off into this whole thing where I'd sort of reinvented Sideswipe and Sunstreaker as a sort of Ryu and Ken kind of martial arts duo. Given their whole jet judo thing back in the day.
But more of a Street Fighter the movie Ryu and Ken.
Oh yeah, definitely. My vision of Sideswipe as a character is, remember those 1980s action movies where a white guy would be fighting a bunch of ninjas? And he probably had a corny mustache because that was cool because Chuck Norris did it? Yeah, that's Sideswipe. That's human Sideswipe. He's in
someone in a Godfrey Ho movie.
Yeah, or something in a movie that would very easily feature what's his name, Bulk Vanderhuge, Reb Brown.
Yeah,
a Reb Brown vehicle. Yeah, but yeah, I mean he's Sideswipe strikes me as the late 30s white dude who has been taking martial arts classes since middle school. And kind of considers himself to be a badass. And admittingly, that's a kind of a goofy sort of fun role, but it's
more than he's ever had.
Right. I mean, one of the reasons that we are latching on to things like the jetpack and the single line about jet judo back in the day is because that's all a lot of the G1 84, 85 characters had. And
gimmick.
They had a gimmick, and then they had a couple of little
one or two scenes,
and they throw out a little hook, and everything else was Fanon. And admittingly, they did that beautifully because there are I have not met anybody who was like legitimately into Transformers or other 80s cartoons as a kid that didn't have a ton of fan theories or
Mm-hmm.
just stuff that they thought they knew about characters that had no support in the fiction. It's because you'd extrapolate off from these little tiny hints, and there's a certain skill to that, I'd say. That's a like the fact that they were able to do that effectively says that they definitely accomplished something. But yeah, it's
Well, I'm just finding a supreme irony in that the upcoming Bumblebee movie, which is explicitly set within the 1980s and is designed to appeal to as many casual, nostalgic people as possible, is currently the part of Transformers that is doing the least amount of cargo culting the 80s. It is the least 80s aspect of the Transformers franchise right now, and it's set in the motherfucking 80s.
Oh, I know.
Well, okay, there's maybe Rescue Bots, because Rescue Bots is at least... Well, Rescue Bots is pulling some old characters. At least they're pulling old characters from, like, Armada and the original Robots in Disguise, and some... And I love that they're using the two lost Rescue Bots from the first series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, why? I just want some more of that, but
Yeah.
I would like some more of that in a toy line that isn't like one steps.
Yeah, your driving point for creativity should not be your preschool line.
Yeah.
And I don't say that with any animus against the preschool lines. I say
Oh,
that
I love Rescue Bots. I think it's a fantastic toy line. It's been a fun show, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it's going. But, you know, your 5 to 11 line, which really is where most of Transformers has been forever, that really needs to be a little more...
sane.
Yeah, a little less
Well,
lost in the past.
Well, yeah, here's the thing about that, and the thing that gets me is that not only is Cyberverse's toy line relentlessly G1, it also completely is also unnecessarily repetitive for a first wave.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's 6 characters repeated across every sale. Yeah. It's a very small cast of characters duplicated many, many times in the same wave. And these are characters that are experiencing audience fatigue already. There is a big problem that it's just getting harder and harder for them to sell a new Bumblebee every year. Because
I mean, hell, Robots in Disguise, the cartoon, made sure to sideline Optimus a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, like back years ago, like second movie, I remember talking to people at Hasbro where they were talking about how concerned they were when the second and third Transformers movie were coming out, that sales were dropping off because parents would just give they would find a movie Bumblebee at a flea market or pay it down from a older sibling. And that there was really not much to drive. Like, the new characters weren't getting any love, and the old characters were the same as they'd always been. So why would you buy any new toys? And the first wave of this is literally three Starscreams, 4 Bumblebees. In wave 1, they didn't even think to go, okay, we'll make Starscream the big expensive one, and then we'll do the lackey characters and the smaller ones, and then later repaint them back into Starscream. So at least the first wave isn't this shelf-clogging wave of sameness.
Yeah.
Because not only is it the same characters, it's the same characters that are always in Wave 1. And it's the same looks that they always have in Wave 1.
And Wave 1 is invariably the way that you're going to see the most of. Hell, I still see Wave 1 of Power of the Primes everywhere.
Yeah.
And nothing. And that Wave 1 came out in November last year. I found my Wave 1 of Power of the Primes in November. And I've seen Wave 2. I saw them like for a couple weeks and then they vanished. I've never seen Wave 3. It's just insane.
Oh, yeah.
We're just cycling through the weird imagery.
Yeah, I don't want it to be all samey when we've got it up in the on the site. But yeah, it's all very samey and very frustrating. And I mean, we've been watching sort of a slow loss of creativity over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
They completely mishandled Rid. I think they passed up on everything interesting to just do more and more G1-iness. Or if they did
the
something,
back end was particularly bad about that.
Yeah, you bring in characters like Megatronus who are visually dull and just limp in the story. Completely ignore your more interesting beast Decepticons. I am not a neutral observer. But like literally the one new thing that they do, they don't make toys of half of them, and they're slow to release them, and they don't really advertise them that much. Whereas the half animal Decepticons, I loved those to death. Again, not a neutral observer. But I mean, you have that. They completely, but they transitioned that to we're just doing a really G1y version of Armada towards the end.
Well, I mean, even the Generations line, somebody, I don't remember who it was pointing out, you've got a line where the gimmick is Headmasters, and you don't do a Night Beat. Mm-hmm. You don't do the Headmaster Horror Cons, the really cool Jet and Ape, and the Jet and Dragon. You don't make a Minerva of all. How do we not have a full-fledged transforming modern Minerva toy by this point?
Or at the very least, some kind of store exclusive.
Yeah, I mean, how do we? I mean, we don't have. There was like the pack-in of just a tiny head unit in some gigantic, expensive set in Japan. Otherwise, how have we not had Minerva in some fashion available as a standard deluxe toy at this point?
Yeah, because it's not like there were a ton of Headmasters characters.
Yeah.
It's not terribly difficult to hit all of those points. But also like as Generations has gone on, it's gotten more and more precious in G1.
Yeah.
We've seen less and less stuff like Armada Starscream and stuff like that. And one of the things that I pointed out is that even if you are like committed to not doing any new designs, like if you are just literally, I don't want to do any creative work whatsoever, there are multiple Optimus Primes that were already tech vehicles that you could do homages to. You could do War for Cybertron Prime. You could do War Within Prime. You could do that Prime that turned into the Rolling Thunder from the G.I. Joe Transformers crossover.
There's Star Convoy.
There's Star Convoy. There's Transformers Prime. There's Transformers Animated.
Make a Prime that you could make a Prime. Make a Thunder Clash that you can then redeco as Prime and then release it later as Thunder Clash with some minor retooling.
I've heard some people theorize that that's what they're doing with Eyebrows Prime, but I don't see how that's going to be a good Thunder Clash.
No.
I guess maybe if you make those lights into that overhang, like that sun visor that he had.
And that becomes his chest. That's Thunder Clash's chest.
Yeah. I mean, he was kind of a dumpy dude as it was.
Like the only older kid / adult aimed Transformer line at the moment that is not Generation 1 is the movie retrospective line. And yes, they're doing a bunch of designs that either desperately needed redos or never got toys at all. Apparently we're going to be getting a Dino, which, fine. We got a Stinger, which we never got. They're supposed to be doing a new Voyager Bone Crusher, and you know what? I'll probably buy that. I do like the Bone Crusher design. Mm-hmm. But we're still talking designs we've had for anywhere up to a decade now,
Mhm.
and had multiple, and most of them have had multiple toys of.
Also, like when they announced that they were doing like a War for Cybertron line, a War for Cybertron trilogy. My goodness gracious,
Mm.
three series of this. Like the next 5 years, we're going to be mired in this. Um,
Can we just, and this relates to movies too. Can we just stop with the idea that we're going to open with a trilogy? Just don't. Just stop. Just focus on the one thing.
mhm. You always want to have a plan for the sequel so that it's not some horrible scramble, but don't spend all your time thinking about it.
Yeah.
And don't assume that it's going to happen. But more than that, I mean, it's like if you wanted to do a line of, oh, we're going to do a line that's all Cybertronian modes, easy enough. You can pick throughout the entirety of Transformers history and get dozens of Cybertronian mode characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no way we're getting an Armada Cyclonus out of that. I would love a new Armada Cyclonus.
Oh, yeah, an Armada Cyclonus.
Rename him if you need to. Call him Warnado. I like that name, Warnado. That's a good name.
Yeah,
call him that so you don't have your Generation 1 Cyclonus mix up, and just make a modern version of that toy. He's not earthy looking.
Mm-hmm.
You can he will work well with the tacked on weapon system. Fine. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to get anything like that.
We're not going to get a Demolisher. We're not going to see any of this stuff from the later Japanese series that was all techy. This is the series to put out a Star Saber.
Mm-hmm.
You know, also, if you're doing a thing that's like before they come to Earth, then all of those characters from the other lines that are not in G1, you can do as their alternate G1 versions on Cybertron before they left. Before they ran off to a colony world or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you want to have like...
Or just ignore it.
I
mean, they're clearly making up stuff, so why don't we have an Aileron toy in this line?
Right. Why no
Who is a standout new character from the IDW comics? Why don't we have a toy of her?
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty of characters from the IDW comics that could stand to have it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, personally, I would love to have the IDW mech animal versions of all of the Beast Wars characters.
Mm-hmm.
I've wanted G1-y mech animal versions of the Beast Wars cast for a long time.
Yeah.
The only one I'm going to wind up being able to get is going to wind up being Primal. Because of...
assuming he ever shows up.
Assuming he ever shows up, yeah. But yeah.
I've basically given up trying to find new Transformers at retail at this stage. It's really sad. And I've always been a big fan of going out and finding toys. But I don't know. This past year has been 2018 has been really egregious when it comes to not getting toys out. I don't know what it is, but somehow not getting toys to shelves. And I'm not normally somebody who's like, well, that's actually a problem, because a lot of it is at retailer level and Hasbro can't do anything. The problem is well beyond retailer level at this stage.
Yeah.
Because even the online sellers aren't getting new product.
Yeah, and part of it just seems to be a general lack of just general... I think... how to put this? It comes across very much like the Hasbro execs are spooked about something. Something didn't go well. And because normally whenever you see a big franchise consolidating back to its original roots, that means it's in trouble. Either that or they've run out of ideas.
I'm going to say a little of column A, a little of column B.
Yeah.
Because this team, honestly...
they know what they like, and they maybe need to like more things.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to speak ill of anybody's skills or abilities. I just think that the decisions that have been made are not going to pan out in the long term. Because again, you can only go to this well so often. And if it was one of those things where, again, if this was just Siege, I would have been fine. I wouldn't have worried a bit about it if this was just like what was going on with Siege. But the fact that it's also hitting two other lines simultaneously, the movie line is always going to be really heavily G1-y in a certain way. And then what else do they do with Masterpiece?
Yeah.
So
well, no, they released Beast Wars and Masterpiece for $300 a whack.
They just don't get it. I don't want super fancy. I just want affordable and nice. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's.
I mean, yeah, I freely admit I am rather looking forward to the Decepticons from the Bumblebee movie. I don't know, for those who don't know, Angela Bassett is voicing one of the Decepticons in the movie, and she's like a red muscle car, which, shit, yeah. All right, Angela Bassett playing a muscle car Decepticon in the 80s. I'm down with this. I will buy that toy. Yeah, I've seen the vehicle mode. It is a sweet vehicle mode. I am buying that toy. This is what I want out of Transformers, something I haven't had before.
Yeah, they really need to loosen up on that stuff. And just generally, if you've got 4 toy lines, it just seems to me to be a waste to do the same thing with 3 of them at once.
That's called self-competition.
Yeah. And
you're taking money off your own table.
Right. It's especially egregious, especially with like the Cyber Battalion figures from like the Dollar Generals and the Walgreens, and the stuff that's going on with Cyberverse, because they have similar sublines, line names, and the characters are all very similar looking. Their differences are not enough to make individual versions of them interesting, but are substantial enough to be inaccurate to the media.
Also, the Cyber Battalion stuff is a lot more toy for the money. Those Cyber Battalion toys are fairly big.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Starscream because I got it from back when you could only find these toys at like foreign countries or Universal theme parks. So I picked up a Starscream because hey, he's neat, and I haven't. And then they started showing up everywhere. But no, that is a sizable toy. I mean, that's the size of one of the Voyager class. The $20 toys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a nice, simple, chunky, solid toy. So, yeah, that's severely self-competing there.
Exactly. That's exactly the problem that they're running into. And I don't. I mean, again, it's one of those things that if Hasbro really wants you and I's specifically, input on this, I mean, they got our information in the freelancer database. We've come up with stuff for them before, so yeah, maybe if someone happens to randomly be listening, sure, we'll help turn this around. But other than that, we're just fanboys, just shouting out into the internet like we do. It's just. It just seemed particularly egregious, especially since there hasn't been it's been a long time since I haven't been excited about anything Transformers coming out.
Yeah. Like, I have things that I am interested in, but I can't say any of it right now genuinely excites me.
Yeah, there are a couple of things that I've been looking at where I'm like, okay, if I can, there's a lot of stuff like, if I could find that, I would be all over it.
Mm-hmm.
That itself is a problem.
Meanwhile, I'm looking at what Lego's putting out this year and going, oh shit, I gotta get that. I need that pirate-themed roller coaster. It's a $90 set, but it is a pirate-themed roller coaster set. That is awesome. It even has water cannons. It has water cannons for the splashdown area, and I can put my metal beard in there with it, and that will be great, and that will be awesome, and I am more excited for that than anything coming out in Transformers right now. Well, okay, we've got that weird bots thing that nobody's 100% sure what it is.
Yeah, well...
Which is, from what we've seen, it looks like it's a kind of blind bag multi-pack deal. which I believe My Little Pony's been doing something that's very successful, and Hasbro's also doing like a cat themed thing now. So the bots thing seems like a weird Shopkins like blind bag deal, and you know what? Maybe that'll be insane enough to where I'll buy. Mm-hmm. At this stage, I will go with completely fucking insane.
Yeah, I just have no. I'll catch up with you on that afterward.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, basically, this has just been an opportunity for us to grumble at a larger audience than our tumblers provide for our dissatisfaction with the direction of the Transformers toy line and its general lack of recent innovation.
Yeah. Well, let's change subject just a little bit. We've still got some time and all that.
All right.
Just about channel updates and whatnot. We're working. This first bit of the month has been a little rough. I had over here we had 2 different visitors who were here for the better part of a week each. So work has been kind of off. But we're working on a new Patreon rifflet. It's a weird one. It's not Colonel Bleep. We're alternating between Colonel Bleep and other things. Mm-hmm. We are going to be putting out there's going to be a new Deadly Games episode. Well, a new episode, but it is not based on an episode.
Yeah. As a little hint, we've got some access to some exclusive information. And we're also realigning because the show is now out on DVD. There's a whole process of getting the DVDs and then making it so that we can do the show where it actually looks good.
Yeah, but we're going to put out a special episode that's kind of catching up, some things we've learned, some other stuff.
Yeah. And
then we're going to go in, and then it's off to the races with more Deadly Games. And I've got some stuff that I want to do, but some of it's very time intensive. I want to try to do, I'll spill the beans a little. I want to try and do some super simple animation. I'm talking near flip book level crap. Mm-hmm. Nothing where everything's very jerk motion, solid poses, very, very, very simple stuff. But that's still a lot of hand drawing and that's on paper. I cannot draw on a computer. I would need one of those, what are they called? Cintiqs? Mm-hmm. The ones where your pad is the screen. If I had one of those, I could do it. My brain refuses to register, a pad and the screen.
Oh, I'm much the same way. Very much the same way.
But we've got a couple different things we're going to try. I mean, some of it might be limited animation, maybe limited animation via 3D models. We don't know. We've got scripts. Mm-hmm. We have several scripts for various things. It's getting them produced in some way that's going to be tricky.
Right. There are various obstacles to that.
And at some point in the near future, or semi-near future, we are going to be doing another crossover with Diamanda Hagen. And Zenith Will Rule, actually, is going to be part of that as well. She's going to be in on that. So we're going to be doing, and I shan't say what, but it's going to be a big multi-person crossover review. Because we like Diamanda.
Yeah, yeah.
If for those of you who don't look up Diamanda Hagen, some of her stuff is a little hard to watch just because her wheelhouse is there's a lot of shocksploitation.
She reviews stuff that's kind of gross.
Yeah, and then some stuff that's just silly.
Yeah.
Her animated movie reviews are always fun, and she's done a couple with oh God, who was it? The Sextet.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but no, there's stuff coming. It's going to be a little later in the month, but we are trying to get things working through the heat and everything. And I'm gonna want to talk to you later about one more thing that another side riffing thing that we're trying to get done.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I think I'm about out of steam. What
no
about you?
problem. Yeah, I'm pretty close. It's still hot. Yeah, I live in Southern California now, for those you don't know, and it's just been getting hotter and hotter. And this house we rent does not have central air because it's an older house. So we have gotten really good at figuring out airflow and shade and everything, but that still means some days, huh.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just wanted to let everybody know we're still alive and everything, and more content will be coming soon.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. This will be available up on YouTube pretty much immediately once it processes.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great week.
Night.
Night.